Hello there, good morning and welcome to the news at 6. The news is live on Joy 99.7 and hits 103.9 FM in Accra, in Kumasi on Love 99.5 FM, Facebook live stream and over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions, including Kalio FM 107.3, Akachi, Radio Max 105.1 FM, Takrady and Rich 104.9 FM, Tamale. Get radio, TV and online content on the myjoyonline.com interactive app for Android and iOS devices. Coming up, governments urged to abandon attempt to use force to resolve Boko conflict and rather consider relying on eminent chiefs to mediate as Mamprugu Traditional Council demands apology following the military's attempt to effect the overlord's arrests.
There were some security breaches in the area which resulted in the unfortunate death of the Yana. I think a committee was put in place, the committee of eminent chiefs.
Also, NPA discloses it has put in place stringent measures to compel OMCs that trade in fuel and the gold for oil deal to sell it at subsidized prices at the pumps.
Under the Gold for Oil program, the price for that product is regulated as we issued in our press release.
And later in business.
Total profits of banks for last year contract by more than 18% to 4 billion cedis. Details on the Joy Business Report.
And later in the bulletin, minority rejects the majority leadership's appeal to ignore the directive of the NDC not to approve latest ministerial appointments made by President Akufo-Addo. This is Joy News, independent, fearless and credible. My name is Mamavi Owusu-Aboagye. Details of the stories now. Government has been urged to abandon attempt to use force to resolve the Boko conflict and rather consider relying on eminent chiefs to mediate. This caution comes in the wake of a demand for an apology by the Mamprugu Traditional Council following the military's attempt to effect the overlord's arrest over the installation of a chief government considers unlawful. Our Northeast Region correspondent Elias Tanko has more.
The press conference was organized at the forecourt of the Nairi and attended by more than 20 members of the Traditional Council and scores of youth and sympathizers. Three major issues were highlighted in this press engagement presented on behalf of the council by the paramount chief of Bankuni, Naba Lari Haruna Nasimon II. The council, first of all, insists that the Nairi is the only legitimate and skinning authority of the Boko chieftaincy skin and therefore condemns the government statement challenging the enskinment of the new Boko Naba.
I wish to state that the Boko skin has been an integral part of partial of the Mamprugu kingdom. The authority of the Nairi to select and enskin a chief for the good people of Boko is not shared with any government or group of individuals. We have observed with concern some political meddling in the Boko chieftaincy matter over the years. Chieftaincy matters are the preserve of traditional authorities. Government and state institutions are only required to mediate in the times of dispute with recourse to history.
The Mamprugu Traditional Council further condemns the attempt 2 days ago by soldiers to arrest the Mamprugu king and the newly enskinned Boko Naba. The council demands an immediate apology from the government for the military attempt in Nalirgu.
We take exception to this and want this to be the last time that the government ever disrespect our king in this manner.
That report filed by Elias Tanko. Well, still on this matter, ranking member of Defence and Interior Committee of Parliament says government could rely on the use of eminent chiefs to resolve the conflict.
When there were some security breaches in the area which resulted in the unfortunate death of the Yana, I think a committee was put in place, the committee of eminent chiefs. When the state put in place that particular committee, there was so many doubting Thomases. But in the final analysis, the committee was the one that aided in finding a lasting solution to the bank crisis.
And that's Member of Parliament James Agalga there. The National Petroleum Authority says it has put in place stringent measures to compel oil marketing companies, that trade in fuel under the Gold for Oil deal to sell it to consumers at subsidized price at the pumps. The Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company has indicated 18 bulk oil distributors have made demands for the 152,000 metric tons of consignment received for the month of February. Speaking to Joy News in an interview, head of economic regulation at the NPA, Abbas Ibrahim Tasunti, said they will monitor the activities of the OMCs to ensure consumers feel the impact of the gold for oil deal in the coming days.
So that's the role that the National Petroleum Authority is playing, also to ensure that the consumer benefits from this reduction in the prices that come under the program. So what we do is that because we are a regulator, we supervise how the pricing is done by these oil marketing companies. In as much as the market is deregulated and we allow the oil marketing companies to determine their own prices. Under the Gold for Oil program, the price for that product is regulated as we issued in our press release.
And that's head of economic regulation at the NPA, Abbas Ibrahim Tasunti. Meanwhile, the GPRTU says it will only reduce transport fares when they have witnessed a significant decrease in fuel prices at the pumps. Samuel Amoa is a member of the communication team of the Transport Union.
So now that they are saying they are working on things for the fuel prices to come down, that is our expectation. But it shouldn't just be a saying, but it should reflect. We should see it live at the pump. You see, when they say it and it's not reflecting at the pump, then it means we are not seeing it. And someone will also say that if the fuel prices are coming down, it's supposed to come down to a certain margin before we can also think of adjusting our fares.
And that's the GPRTU's Samuel Amoa. Now, Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research at the University of Ghana, Professor Peter Korte, says a more transparent rollout of the domestic debt exchange program would have seen less agitations. Speaking on the Joy Business Thought Leadership Series on the theme Debt Exchange and IMF Deal, a do or die affair, he said the timing was short and consultation was inadequate.
The timing was too short. Two, we didn't consult widely enough, and that led to a lot of the agitation that we saw, including even undertaking some market survey or research that would have informed us as to who to bring on board and who not to, and how much we'll be saving. And I'm sure the agitation that we see could have been minimized.
Professor Peter Korte there, speaking on the same platform. CEO of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce, Mamavi Owusu-Aboagye, says the private sector will be severely affected by the debt exchange program.
Well, I think it's been very severe.
Very severe.
Very extremely severe.
Break it down for us.
Because the private sector is highly exposed to government bonds. I mean, if you tell that the banks and insurance are all private sector organizations, and you take a bank that has given acquired a bond for 9 billion and giving the private sector 4 billion, definitely if something should happen, then the bank is going to suffer. So most of the banks, in fact, the research that we did clearly indicated that about 50% of the total asset of the banks were invested in government bonds.
And that's CEO of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce, Mamavi Owusu-Aboagye. Let's head to Parliament now. And the minority is rejecting the majority leadership's appeal to ignore the directive of the NDC not to approve the latest ministerial appointments made by President Akufo-Addo. The majority side made a U-turn on its earlier stance, asking the minority to cooperate with them for the sake of unity of the House. But speaking to Joy News in an interview, Deputy Minority Leader Emmanuel Amakufibua said the presidency must realign the ministries to reflect the general sentiment in the country.
Well, it's a very principled position, and I think our position is in keeping with what the people of Ghana want at this point. I think it makes too much sense, and we cannot change it, and nobody will change it.
Mr. Amakufibua, however, if you look at the ministerial portfolios that will be affected, these are cabinet positions. In fact, cabinet positions are defined by the Constitution, for the president decides which minister will sit in.
Nobody. Did you hear me mention Minister of Agriculture and Minister of Trade? These are very critical ministries.
Yes, but you're going to reject them.
But you didn't listen to my argument. This government has too many ministers. They have too many men who, in some ministries, we have 3 and 4 ministers. How do you appoint a minister to a ministry where there's a substantive minister?
And that's Emmanuel Amakufibua. And in the news at 6, our top headline this hour. Our top story this hour, government's urged to abandon attempt to use force to resolve Boko conflict and rather consider relying on eminent chiefs to mediate as Mampurugu Traditional Council demands apology following the military's attempt to effect the overlord's arrests. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. Thanks for listening.